Hi, my name is Judy and I'm the City Stitcher, and welcome to my Flosstube channel. Today is Sunday, April the 10th, and if you are celebrating Palm Sunday, happy Palm Sunday to you. It's been a reasonably pleasant day today. Some periods of sun, a little bit of overcast, sun comes out. I think we're at that point of time in the day where I'm hoping that the light won't be doing weird things, but you just never know. So yeah, I hope everybody's had a good week. If you were a new viewer, thank you for stopping by and spending some time with me. And as always, I know I try to say this every week. I'm not sure I always do it every week, but in my head I do. A big thank you to those of you who come back faithfully and regularly and catch up on my stitching journey and comment and let me know your thoughts when I ask for opinion polls and all that kind of stuff. So welcome to everyone. Sorry, I'm just looking at all the stuff that I've got around me. I laughed. I was watching somebody else's Flosstube this week, and they were like, I have stuff everywhere. And I went, oh yeah, no, I'm familiar with that concept. It's not too bad this week. It's not too bad. As you can tell by the topic for this week, let's talk about April plans. Hopefully this is going to be one of my shorter videos, but only if I, get going. Just wanted to say thank you to everyone who commented last week on last week's video on a variety of topics. So I'm going to start off with Lena, who is working on, who will be working on a piece called the Honey Makers that calls for, and I loved it. I looked it up because I went, really? And the answer is yeah, all of them. So the called for colors are DMC metallic thread, Kreinik number 4 braid, and Petite Treasure braid, which I thought was very, very interesting. Lena, you asked me what size needle I would recommend. She's doing it on a 36 count over 2 linen threads. My recommendation for you is at least a 26. At least a 26 size needle, maybe a 24. And the only reason, so generally my recommendation is when you're using the metallic threads is whatever size needle you normally like to work with, move it up one size. Just because it means that it will give you a little bit, enlarge your hole a bit as you're putting your needle down through it. Not enough that it will stretch it out regularly or do anything weird like that, but while you're stitching, it will enlarge your hole just a little bit more so that you can get your metallic thread through it. But again, decide for yourself. You may get there and go like, is it moving it enough? Maybe a 24. A 24 feels a little large on a 36, but depending on how tight the weave is on the particular piece of fabric you're working on, that's also an option. So as usual, my recommendation on everything is I'm going to give you a suggestion, followed up firmly by and maybe try a couple of different things and see what works best for you. Because that is the answer on all things stitching related, including markup RXP versus pattern keeper. So thank you to all of you who added comments into last week's video, as well as the previous one, about your thoughts on markup RXP, easy PDF, pattern keeper. I appreciated all of that. And so I will never, I will just firmly say, I will never be offended if I love the people who are going, I'm firmly in the camp of, X or Y, because that's what works best for you. And I will never sort of say, like, you have to find the tool that works best for you. At the end of the day, the tool that works best for you may not be the tool that works best for me. The easy answer is look at all those crazy people out there who enjoy floss drops. I hate those things. They don't work for me at all. If they work for you, that's great. You have to find the tool that works for you. I just appreciate hearing people's perspective and why they like what they like. And again, it could be, you know, at the end of the day, I may end up in a position where I say, I think markup RXP is the right answer for these types of situations. And I think Pattern Keeper is a better option for these types of situations. I don't know, because I haven't reached that decision. But I love hearing from people who can tell me, it's like, this is why I like what I'm using. So I've taken all of those comments into consideration. I'm still doing a few things. Towards the end of April, I am planning on doing, the topic will be my comparison of markup RXP versus Pattern Keeper. So because I'm still in test mode. So I'm not, can't say that I'm firmly in either camp yet. I would say I'm heavily leaning towards one thing, and we'll talk about when we get there, but you know, that's, and again, I'm still reserving the right to say this I think is the right answer for certain situations and something else is better for other situations. I haven't hit that point yet. I'm working on it. So check back. I want to say, I think it'll probably towards the end of April, maybe even the first week of May, I think is when that topic is going to be coming up. But thank you, thank you. So even now, if you are someone who hasn't commented before and you want to add your 2 cents into the thing, love to hear from you. Love to hear what people are using and why they're making those choices. You know, again, I will end up making the choice that is best for me and how I stitch and what works for me and 27 other things. And that's okay. You have to use the tool that works best for you. But thank you for all the comments. Loved it. Loved reading them. Loved going into the 2 apps, looking at different things. Loved hearing from everybody. Okay, I have one more comment, but we're going to talk about when we get to that particular piece. So let's get into what did I stitch on this week. So as noted last week, we are now in the month of April. So I am working on my April Cottage of the Month from Country Cottage Needleworks. So it's going to end up looking like that. It was a challenging week. I know, for a little piece like that. Anyway, we'll talk about that. So what did I do? Well, I worked on my cottage. I stitched almost all of this part of the house. So this part is what I had done last week. Other than I noticed after I put out the video, I'd missed one stitch over here in the corner. So I went back and added the stitch so it was correct. I stitched, I would say 85% of this side of the house, the purple. And then I discovered I miscounted. So everything was off by one. And I couldn't fudge it. I know, ridiculous. Anyway, so I discovered I'd made the big error, and then I do what every normal sane person does. I got mad at the project because it was clearly the project's fault. And it went and it sat away for a couple of days because I was mad at it because I was going to have to unstitch all of this. And I had to unstitch it. Anyway, I've added it all back in. As you can tell, I've started working on the roof and the trim around the windows, which means I have made my brown decision. And so the browns that I am using are 3864 and 3863 or 62. Check in the comment section down below. I'll put them in there for sure. So it was interesting, you know, because I sort of hauled out full skeins of sort of what I'm using, you know, so the purple, the blue, the orange, because yes, carrots are orange, so the orange is going in, the yellow, the green, like I pulled them all out and then I put my sort of brown options and I chose my brown. And I think the browns that I'm using for this one are the browns that I used in March as well. I laughed because when I pulled out the called for colors, which is DMC 420 and 422, I put them down and just went, no, I really cannot do that. That's a firm no for me. We all know I have some brown issues, so there you go. So I've made my brown decision, so I'm moving along on my roof and the trim. I have not made my decision on what my dark purple here is going to be, so that decision should be made by next week, so check back and see how that's going. So less progress this week than I was hoping to make because I was mad at it. And when you're mad at it, it just needs to go away for a couple of days. And then there was one night where I was just like, fine, I will sit down and I will unstitch my purple. Anyway, I was very happy and cheerful that evening. All right, so that is my cottage. So this week was also April 6th occurred this week. And many of you will probably not recollect, but I have a project that I am working on the 6th of every month because it is my commemorative piece for Queen Elizabeth's Platinum Jubilee. So her 70th, the 70th anniversary of her ascension to the crown. So I'm working on French Country Crown by JBW Designs. I am doing this on a 28 count Navy Lugana, and I'm doing it entirely in beads. And I forgot to bring the beads, so I don't remember what it is. Check in the comment section down below if you'd like to know. So I added sort of this part down here. But as I was coming up to the end of the evening, I think one of these is off. So there's something wrong in this little section over here. And since I don't have to work on it until May the 6th, somewhere over the next couple of weeks, I will come back and I will probably end up having to rip something out in here. I need to figure out where the problem is, but there's something a little funky going on over here. But not too bad. It's coming along. Yeah, I like my decision. I like that I'm doing it in the crazy beads. I am stitching the beads on with invisible thread, which, don't get me wrong, makes my job infinitely harder. You know me. If I can take a project and I can make it harder than it should be, you know I'm all in. So that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm doing it on navy. I'm doing it in navy fabric, entirely in beads with invisible thread, just to make my life more fun. Okay, we'll go with that. Anyway, happy with my progress. So not bad progress. And again, because I'm just working on it for a little bit every 6th of every month. I'm hoping to have certainly all of this stitched by the time we hit next February 6th. You know, again, I'm doing it for the entire year of her Platinum Jubilee, I think, and we'll see how it goes. Again, my larger plan is this piece will not actually be complete until she has passed away, which I am not aiming for. It sounds horribly morbid and all that kind of stuff. I am not hoping that she passes away anytime, although she's looking very frail these days. I'm quite worried about her. I also want her to make 100 for very, very selfish reasons. Anyway, I don't know that she wants to live to 100, but anyway, I want her to. But anyway, so that is my project. I am making progress on that. Again, at some point between now and next May the 6th, I will have to check this section and potentially rip out some of that. But again, made a little bit of progress on this. So I'm happy with how it's coming. I think working on it, you know, for a little bit every 6th is coming along well. So I've come down, so I've started at the top, so I'm about here on the chart. So not bad. Still need to do sort of the two sides, but I think pace-wise, it's coming along just fine. So that is my commemorative piece. All right. Now we're going to talk about Joanne Jones's comment. By the way, Joanne, I forgot to comment on your thing. It's coming, but congratulations on the new grandson. That's really wonderful to hear. Sampler of stitches. Well, let's see. Where did I get to this week? And what unique choices did I decide? Because you know there's always going to be unique choices, right? So made progress. I'm happy with my progress. I have now successfully unstitched for the second time my Eastern stitch. So last week I had restitched the Eastern stitch with the Soie Perlee using the different stitch diagram and thought it was better, but I still think the right answer is to do it in the Soie d'Alger. So I unstitched it yet again. I made no decisions on what to do with this diagonal stitch over here. Diagonal chevron, I think it's called, and I'm debating a diagonal four-sided. Have made no decisions. So my DEF chart is not complete. On my F, this is another one of those ones where the picture on the front of the chart and the stitch diagram are not in agreement. I went with the picture on the front of the chart. I'm not sure I like the pink in this one. I don't know that I like it. I put it in, I finished the stitching, and I was like, I don't know. So I can think about it for a bit. Quite frankly, I can think about it till I finish the rest of the charts. But I'm really debating, I'm thinking about actually ripping those pink stitches out. I don't know that I like them. Check back later. So I got this on my GHI chart. I also said I was going to talk to you about the stitches as we went along, and I failed at that. So this stitch up here, they call the gate stitch. I liked this stitch. I like how it ends up looking. I was totally fine with the Gobelin filling stitch here, which is done in the white. This stitch is the Griffin stitch, so it takes 3 colors. So my change on this one is it calls for the light green, the very light mauve, and the dark mauve. And as we discussed back here, I have added a 4th color. So I have 4 levels of gradation in this mauve, what I'm calling the mauve color. And so on this one, I used so the light green, which is hard to see, and then I used these 2 middle colors of the mauve for that particular stitch. I just felt that the darkest mauve was too harsh a contrast in that particular stitch. So normally when I use the dark mauve, I use like this, like 1, 2, 3. I use the 3rd mauve as the contrast. But in this one, I ended up using the number 2 and the number 3 mauves, just because I felt the darkest was too big of a contrast. So I liked how that one came out. This one, I'm calling it the guilloche stitch, which I think is hilarious, because this is what they say about it. That stitch is generally used to make highly decorative borders and can be worked in 1 color or 2. I don't know that I think that I would consider that to be a highly decorative stitch. I think any of these other things are more decorative, but anyway, I just kind of read that and went, sorry, that's a decorative stitch? Anyway, maybe I just don't understand in context, but I kind of laughed at that. So I did the green over here. I have not done the God's Eye, which are used to make the grapes. So I've got a dozen grapes to go on there. I have the light blue to do in the G, and there's light pink in that one as well. So close. Again, according to the schedule, I was supposed to be finished everything up to the end of the letter G by last Sunday, which I did not get accomplished, but I came close. as you can see, I've also started on the H. So because the light blue and the dark blue were used here, there were light blue and dark blue used here, and there's light blue and dark blue used in these. So I just kind of used up what I had. Anyway, so I ended up doing some work. So I'm a little bit ahead on H. I'm behind, a little bit behind on G, but G will easily get completed tonight. I have some decisions to do because I haven't finished D and I have not finished E. I'm hoping E will be finished tonight. D, I still think I'm going to debate for one more week because there's nothing like putting off a decision, right? Anyway, and then I can get started working on H. Thank you to those of you this week, last week, I'm getting my comment weeks all mixed up, who commented that they had more recently gotten the chart and the hand was on their chart as well. So I am going to have a debate because I don't know that I love the hand. So I can see why those lovely stitchers who had their work framed by the Craft Connection in Edmonton chose to do a different stitch, but I don't know what that stitch is. So I may end up going into, I do have a book of stitches, so I may go in and look for another H-type, H-labeled stitch. If anybody out there has any brilliant ideas about what I could do there, feel free to leave them in the comment section down below. Love to hear that. So this is my first week on H. So between this week and next week, Easter Sunday evenings stitching, I should have to the end of H complete. So I feel like I've got a decent start here. Again, the heart is sewn on, so that's easy. So it's really, there's only 3 stitches here plus whatever I decide to do for this. So I feel like I'm in really good shape for that. So I'm going, maybe by the end of April, I will truly be on track because I will have made decisions. And again, I like Joanne's comments because she said, I think my secret plan to delay starting on the sampler stitches because I was working on other things has really paid off. I think that is absolutely true. So if you have not yet started stitching on this, you are still welcome to join in the SAL. It's a stitch along. Start along, go at your own pace, do whatever you want. I'm firmly in that camp. So I think it's great because yes, you can watch all of my crazy videos and watch me complain about things and talk about where the differences are and where I'm changing things. So yes, I think that's a great benefit. Joanne, I hope you've been making notes because otherwise you're gonna have to go back and watch all of the crazy videos and sort of go, what did she complain about? Did she change her mind? Wait, 3 videos from now, did she change her mind? That poor Eastern stitch, that Eastern stitch shows up in like, by next week, it will be 4 videos in a row I've been complaining about the Eastern stitch before you get my final decision on that one. Anyway, but yes, maybe delaying starting this so that others of us can start stitching it and can moan and whine and complain and change things and make decisions. Yes. So that's where I'm at on that one. I think, so not bad. I've made some progress on this. It's coming along. So this is as far over as the piece goes. So I've now hit the far right hand side of this. Once I get to the end of I, wait for it, I'm gonna have to scroll down. Technically, some of these other ones aren't, the pattern is not entirely complete because I have not added on the beads and the charms and all that kind of stuff because I do stitch on a scroll frame. But as long as the stitching is complete, adding those last little bits in at the end are going to be very easy. But hopefully by the time we hit May, we will be in a position that I will be scrolling up and we will be moving on. Again, very happy with my progress on this because I have managed to keep on track relatively well with this. Not 100%, but really, really close. And again, given that I had a restart on this, I think I'm doing great. I am stitching this on 32 count Silvery Moon Lugana by Zweigart. I am using my own color conversion for the colors in this chart. I'm using Soie d'Alger. All of those numbers are in the comment section down below if you're looking for what I'm using on mine. But yeah, I'm happy with how it's coming along. This last week was interesting because I kept it propped up on the back of the couch. So I looked at it for an entire week and I went, I think it's coming along nicely. Not bad. So 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago when I was talking about the craft connections, like, man, I wasn't very adventurous with my color choices. And I went, I'm too far along to restart this. I'm still going, I still am okay with my color choices. I like how it's coming along. I think it's going to look great at the end. So very happy with this. Again, my thanks to Sarah Hughes, the Stitchin' Mommy, for coming up with the idea of doing this, because otherwise this would still be sitting in my stash with no planned date for when it was going to get started. So thank you, Sarah, because it means this set of 9 charts is actively getting worked on. And as far as I can tell, I am on track for having this complete this year. So I think that's great. So that is my sampler of stitches. Yeah. All right. Which brings me to my Lent piece, the piece that I'm stitching on every day for the season of Lent, which is my Thea Gouverneur Jerusalem. This was a kit that I purchased, so I'm using all of the kit materials, sort of. How's that for definitive? You're gonna laugh, because I was really hoping to have some firm decisions, and I don't have firm decisions, and we're going to talk about that in just a second, but I will show you where I got to. You will laugh. I ended up, as I was getting ready for this video, I ended up putting different sidebars onto my scroll frame, because we're back at that same point where I'm having a problem, because I'm having to scroll around. There's going to come a day where I'm working on this where who knows what I'm going to be doing with it. But here's where I'm at this week. So I'm very happy with my progress this week. Let's just put it's getting to the point where I don't have a board big enough to put behind it. All right, so what did I do this week? Well, clearly I worked heavily on the greens up here, and I love the fact that you can see where the crosses go for the Church of Mary Magdalene, which is waiting for my metallic decisions, and I started on one up here. I can't wait to actually get into the church, because it's going to be some really lovely stitching. But so made decent progress. I forgot to check my stitch count on this to see how many stitches I've added into here. I also worked down here. So I was trying to finish up most of the green down here at the side of the church. As you can see, there's a couple of spots left, but they were for random colors. Those colors came up over here in this green, but by then I'd already scrolled up, and I was like, it wasn't worth it to scroll down again, because there is another, there is more green plant things coming over here in the middle. And I figured by the time I got down here and I was doing this part of the green, that's when I was going to catch up on the rest of this. I was like, let's just move on and get into the church. So happy with my progress this week. While I was down here trying to finish up these greens, I decided I was going to finish the brown. So there's a little, again, so this is where the end of the page is. I was going to finish the browns that carried over onto page 4. And then I couldn't help myself. I'm like, let's just go down to the page and finish those browns down here. So again, I have not done the back stitching on this particular part. But I finished all of those browns that carried down into the next page. So worked on page 4, also did a little bit of work on page 9, because I can't help myself. But I'm very happy with how this is coming along. I only have one more week left on this, so I will work on this all of this week, and I can see myself, because I know that we're coming to the end of Lent, I will work on it on Easter Sunday, although technically Lent is over, but I will work on it on Easter Sunday as well. So you'll probably see it twice more. We'll have to see how I decide when I'm going to do my stitching on Sunday. But I can see myself trying to do a really big push on it this week because I know this is my last week. I have 8 days of stitching left on this. I would be so thrilled if I could get a decent chunk of the Church of Mary Magdalene. I would be thrilled. I would be so excited. So I can see that I might be neglectful on my April cottage this week while I work on my Jerusalem. But again, I'm very, very happy with the progress. When I got to the point where it's like I could clearly see those crosses, I was like, ugh. Had to scroll up a little bit because I started on the top of the cross of this church, and that's going to get into a very minor discussion here. There will be a more bigger discussion next week. But so there is my progress on Jerusalem. Happy with my progress on that this week. And the interesting thing, one of the good things, because I'm terrible about taking the pictures and posting on Instagram, as you all know, if any of you sadly follow me on Instagram, I'm not still trying to work on my Instagram skills, like post the dumb picture, like sampler stitches. I've done a terrible job. I take the pictures, but I don't post them. That's how good I am at it. But anyway, the good thing about doing the floss tubes is that I can go back to last week's video and go, where was I? And so you clearly couldn't have seen, you know, this turret or minaret or whatever it's called. Like, I get to go back and go like, oh yeah, you have made progress. And I laughed because I was scrolling up and down. And then I decided I was done. Finished this and went, you're done with scrolling. Scroll up, get this done, and move on. So it'll be very interesting to see what I get accomplished this week. I'm mostly looking forward to working on the Church of Mary Magdalene. And I'll talk about that in just a second too. But there's my progress. Happy with how that's coming along. All right, let's talk about Stashquisitions. So a little bit of Stashquisitioning this week. I did buy a couple of turrets. I have not printed them out. I bought them from Ukrainian seller on Etsy. Again, I'm trying to do a little bit here and there in a variety of different ways to help out our poor friends in the Ukraine. There's just been, like, anyway, I am having a hard time going, I can't believe the situation is still going on. Anyway, but unfortunately, we are where we are. So if any of you are from the Ukraine, my thoughts, my prayers, thinking about you very, very regularly. My heart breaks for the devastation that I see in your country. The mental toll that this is having on you it's awful. And I don't know how to fix that. So I am trying to do the little bits that I can. There was a on YouTube, someone posted they had gone back to their residence, which had been bombed. So the compound had been bombed. Their particular apartment was still technically intact. I had moments where I was like going, I wonder if it's even structurally sound, but they were in there. They went back in. It was heartbreaking. She's a pianist. She went back in and her piano was still intact. The windows were blown out. The room had like debris and all those things. She was having to like get debris off of the piano, but she went back in and she played the piano. It was just, it was awful as a pianist myself. Like knowing that you had to leave your home, like it was awful. Lovely and awful simultaneously. And so she just sat down and she was playing the piano as I think it was her daughter, had the camera and was sort of showing around their home. And, you know, clearly all the windows had been blown out. The doors have been blown off. Like, anyway. So thinking about you all, really wishing that things would come to a conclusion sooner as opposed to later. the aftermath of this is just going to be awful as well. So anyway, unfortunately, I think this is going to go on for a bit longer, hopefully shorter, but anyway, thinking about you, lovely people of the Ukraine, my friends in the Ukraine. All right, so bought a couple of patterns from there, because again, for many of them, what their whole livelihoods, like you can't go to your job, they're running out of food, there aren't necessarily safe corridors for food to even come in. It's a terrible situation. So anyway, trying to get a little bit of money into certain places while sending some money into some charities that are doing some relief work. And anyway, every little bit helps. So did that. The other Stashquisitions, I did go out and I got, I picked up 4 spools of DMC Diamante. So next week, my topic is going to be, let's talk about metallic threads. I was actually hoping that I would have that be this week's topic, and it's not, because I haven't made any final decisions. So I have my Diamante. I don't have all, I have my Rainbow Gallery Petite Treasure braid. I'm missing one of them. And I didn't bring all of the ones, but I have my Krynic number 4 options. So we talked about this last week, that I was going to try to figure out, because the DMC Metallic Light Effects is just like horrendous. Anyway, so I graciously made, this was my shopping list, where I said, so here's the list, you can't hardly see, here's the list of the DMC light effects that is used in my kit, and then I came up with all of my comparisons, and some of them, you know, like this, I forgot to bring it, but you know, for example, this option, which is 002V, which is, according to the conversion list, is the same as E436, but I don't like this because it's not shiny enough. But there is a, that's not it either, but there is a Rainbow Gallery Petite Treasure braid equivalent, which I think is what I'm going for. I have not made my final decisions. Most of these colors are used in the top of the Church of Mary Magdalene. I was really hoping that I was going to have made those decisions, like I say, by today, but I didn't. And part of the reason for that is so this, the cross here, I have done in Rainbow Gallery Petite Treasure braid. The interesting thing from a visual is, so that's what it looks like with the Petite Treasure braid. You can barely see it over here. Yep, this is a little unwieldy. Yeah, right there. So you can barely see it. So there's a little bit of the crying of that same color of the DMC light effects. Here, there's sort of halo effects. The light is not working, so you can even see it at all. So that's why I'm having to, I should have spent more time on this last night, but I did the stitching. I haven't even woven in the ends of this, because I was going to have to make some decisions. And part of the reason is that the coverage in the DMC light effects is thinner than the coverage using the one strand of the Petite Treasure braid, which is to be expected. So I'm having a little bit of a debate about whether it's the right decision. And so I put it in, and then I was like, it's the whole thing. Just leave it sitting up on the back of the chair and look at it as you walk by it and think about it and make some decisions. So I did some test stitching with the Petite Treasure braid. I've done test stitching, as you can tell, not necessarily with these particular versions of So these were the ones that I recently bought, and I've left all of their bands on them just in case I decide that they need to go back. So I did some test stitching with a Diamante that I had in my stash, just because I wanted to compare coverage between the Petite Treasure braid, the DMC Diamante, and the Kreinik No. 4 braid. They're all different. They're all different, which is why I've not made my decision. Here's your forewarning. Next week's topic is going to be, let's talk about metallic thread. Because that's where I will have made decisions by then. So I will talk more concretely about the differences between DMC Diamante, Petite Treasure braid, DMC Light Effects, and Kreinik No. 4 braid. So still debating, but I didn't bring them all, but as you can see, so I have my Diamante, I have my metallics, I have I've got all of the metallic everythings, which are going to be, you know, drive me to drink. So that's, yeah. So check back next week. That's the topic for next week, because hopefully by then I will have made decisions. So those are my Stashquisitions for this week. Here comes my very brief topic. I'm going to try to keep this one under an hour. So my plans for April. Number one, so I'm going to finish off my Lent stitching. So up till Sunday of next week I will be working on my Jerusalem kit. As I previously said, some of the learnings from this particular Lent is this is the second Lent that I've worked on Jerusalem with a completely different rotation for it. And we'll talk about that next week as well. I have made the firm decision that I will not be stitching on Jerusalem for next Lent. So in my 5-year stitching plan, Lent of next year, it's not Jerusalem. I have some thoughts about what I'm going to do for that. So I'm, you know, don't take the wrong way. Check back next year when we talk about Lent, because there will be something else coming up for Lent next year. But I have some very specific plans for what I want to get accomplished in that Lent season. I want to finish so I've already been successful about working on my Platinum Jubilee commemorative piece, because that gets worked on the 6th of every month. So I've already done that. My next focus will be that the June cottage needs to get finished in the month June cottage. Looking ahead. My April cottage needs to get finished in the month of April, because that is my plan. That will keep me on track for that particular overarching goal for this year, which is to get all 12 of those cottages by Country Cottage Needleworks complete in the month. Not fully finished, because that's a whole other problem, but get them all stitched up in their month. So that will be great. So I'm on track for that. A little behind because I got mad at April this week. So get that finished up. Work on my sampler of stitches. As soon as we hit Easter Monday, so that's April the 18th, I've got a couple of, there are a couple of things that I've got planned on pieces that I want to get finished in April. So we're going to see that when we come in there, but I've got some specific goals about things that I want to get finished in the month of April before we hit May. May is coming, Mania is coming. I'm not going to do Mania. If you're new, Mania was started a number of years ago in a Facebook group that is no longer exists. But it was to do something manic, which could be anywhere from 15 starts is where it started to 15 starts during the month of May, really one a day for the first 15 days, up to do a new start every day for the month of May, which would be a total of 31 new starts. I am not doing that. That would be awful for me. As I've said before, I don't like the first couple hundred stitches for me on any project are the worst stitches, except maybe for some of the metallics. Anyway, So I'm not doing that because that's awful. That's not my plans for May. I do have some May plans. So there are some specific things that I want to get accomplished before we hit May so that I can focus on my May goals. Really, April is a bit of a weird month for me because Lent is, you know, again, depending on when the Lent season runs, either Lent finishes early or finishes late or it finishes in the middle. So this particular season, it is finishing sort of in the middle of April. So it does give me about a couple of weeks to work on some things that I want to get finished. I have sort of in my head what I think those projects are going to be, but they're a little fuzzy. It kind of depends on, I kind of have them in an order of the order in which I want them to get finished. So for example, April Cottage is number 1. So that has to get finished first. And then I have a number 2 project and I'm going to work on that till that gets finished. Then I'm going to have a number 3 project and I'm going to work on that till that gets finished. And then I have a number 4 project and I'm going to work on that till that gets finished. So yeah, so there are 4 projects that as soon as we get to Easter Monday, those will come out and that's what I will be working on. So it feels, like I say, that's why I feel like for this week there's going to be, I may be working on Jerusalem, like hardly working on the cottage at all because I know I'm in my last 8 days of stitching on it, which I would really like to see some good progress on the Church of Mary Magdalene. Anyway, so check back next week and see where I'm at. So that is my plans. Focus this week, and then I've got 4 projects that I'm planning on focusing on from April 18th till the end of the month and see how much of them I can get finished. Now, if I'm uberly efficient, that's great because then that lets me work on other things. But I don't know, 2 weeks, 4 projects. Let's see how fast I can work on those. Anyway. So those are my plans for the rest of April. I will continue to be working on sampler stitches just on the Sunday nights. So not bad. Like I say, I'm keeping on pace with that pretty well. So I'm happy with that progress. And I'm looking at my clock going 47 minutes. It's going to be under an hour. Yay! Next week, sadly, could be longer. So brace for impact. Anyway, so with that, that is all of my stitching for this week. As always, thanks for stopping by. Happy to take any comments, questions, topics you'd like me to address. Feel free to put those in the comment section down below. And as I always say, I hope everybody is staying safe between conflict in various parts of the world and weird weather that's occurring in a variety of places. Safety first, safety first, safety first. So I hope everybody's staying safe. I hope everybody's staying healthy. And I hope that you're all finding time to do some stitching and that it is bringing you a sense of calm in whatever is going on in your world. And with that, I look forward to seeing you next week. Take care, guys.